The temperature is going up, the heat is on, the magnifying glass is out, and you feel like you're going to explode. Well, good morning to everybody and welcome to Time Out. My name is Jack Vint, and this morning behind me is the Dynamite Museum. So this could be a very explosive segment, so don't go away. I want to say thank you to all those who watch Time Out and really take time to comment and give me their opinion. I really appreciate that. And when you share it and it's to try and help somebody, that's really the reason why I do it. So thank you very much. Now this morning I want to share with you, as I stand outside of this Dynamite museum, I want to share with you about a subject, and I want to ask you a question. What detonates your fuse? And what causes us at times or people to explode? Now, we've all heard, or maybe we've said this, that person really needs a cracker up their rear end because we want to get people moving. And sometimes when we're extreme, we say, that person really needs a piece of dynamite, up their rear end. Now, dynamite will work every time. It'll get us moving. The problem with dynamite is it'll really blow people up more than what it is useful for them. Many years ago, when I was young and a small boy, I used to play with a magnifying glass, and I'm sure many of you may have done that too. And like many young boys, I used to love to harness the sun, and you hold the magnifying glass and you let the sun's rays concentrate and thousands of times, and it really causes that sun that is normally not that bad to become almost like a laser. And it can burn through paper, and it can create a fire. And sometimes I was even naughty, and I used to experiment on the ants. And when you heat up an ant, it literally explodes, it pops. Now I want to confess, I killed a few ants in my day like that, and I know when I get to heaven I'm going to have a couple of ants waiting for me with answers. Wanting answers. Now if you said something to somebody and they totally overreact, it's almost like it's an explosive situation. I want to say, oftentimes what we have said, if people overreact to our comment or something we said, it's often not about what we've said a lot, but it's about what happened before we said it. It's the many things that are culminated towards an explosive situation, and and then people explode. And when people explode, it leaves them vulnerable and us confused. What did we say? We've all been in that situation. Now, when people explode, they are all over the place. They're disorientated, their hearing is affected, their eyesight is affected. It's almost like they're confused in their mind. And on top of it, most of all, they're angry because they're hurt. Now, I want to say, how do we stop people getting to that point? How do we stop ourselves getting to that point where when somebody says something, we don't explode and become vulnerable and they become confused? And I thought about 3 practical things that can help us. The number one is, when you have that magnifying glass on people, it puts the pressure, the heat comes on. And so we need to be careful that we don't magnify the heat in people's lives to a point where it causes them to explode, like that magnifying glass on the ant. We need to take that magnifying glass off, because the natural sunlight, yes, it can burn our skin if we're in it long enough, but it takes a long time. But when we magnify it, it can really cause damage suddenly. And so I feel that the best thing that we can do when we feel we're going to overheat and we're going to explode is we need to find some shade. And we need to find, in the natural, when you're hot, you feel that you want to go under a big shade tree. And the bigger the shade tree, the better the shade. And so I feel that when we need to cool down a bit, we need to find shade trees. And the best shade trees in life are our friends. And the taller they are and the bigger they are, the more the shade, and we can come under that shade. Sometimes we are the shade trees, and sometimes we need the shade trees. We shelter under them. They become our umbrella. And the second thing that we can do when we feel like we under the magnifying glass and we're going to explode, we need to not just stand under that tree, but we need to try and wait for a breeze. And sometimes it takes time for a breeze to come, but there's always a little bit of breeze, and we need to face the breeze so that breeze can also cool us down. Just like in the natural, when people stand under a shade tree and the breeze blows, it's very refreshing. It revives them. So we need to sometimes wait to be revived before we explode. And I think that breeze in our life, I would like to think of it as God's promises to us. God's made so many promises that He'll never leave us or forsake us, that He has given everything on His side to assist us, that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. There are so many promises of God that we need to reflect on. We need to wait on for that breeze to blow into our face, because that will cause us to take a step back before we explode and are vulnerable and hurt. We can then remember the promises of God. And then lastly, I want to say one of the most important things is, not just the shade tree or the breeze, but one of the most important things is, we need water. There's nothing that when you are overheating and you are hot, and yes, it's great to be in shade, it's great to have a breeze, but there's nothing like a cold glass of water to really cool you down, your core temperature to come down, so that the heat can be a little bit less in your life. And I'd like to think of, in many years ago, before technology and, even before we had water on demand or tap, people used to dig wells in the Old Testament. And wells were, at those days, because they were the water, they were assets. People would actually name wells after their parents or grandparents, and they would pass on a well in their inheritance. It was part of their inheritance because it was an asset. They would dig a big hole, then they would line it with stone, and then when they were finished, they would put a bucket with a rope and they would let it down that hole, and they would draw up the water, and then they would be refreshed by that water. And I really feel that, the wells in our lives is really about our faith. Sometimes when you dig in South Africa now or wherever the world, because of pollution, the cisterns, underground cisterns are polluted by pollution and all the contaminants. And we have to now really go deep to get the real fresh water. And sometimes we have to dig deep into our lives, deep into that well, to get the water we need so that we can be refreshed at a time when we feel that we are under the magnifying glass and the heat is on and we're going to explode at any moment. We need to dig deep, and we need to draw from that well, and we need to receive that water of refreshing. I believe as a Christian that is the reminder that I've got faith in God, that God is not a man that He should lie, what He said He will do. And that is what distinguishes us at times from people that have no hope and from people that have hope in God. And so I want to encourage you, next time when you feel the temperature is going up, the heat is on, the magnifying glass is out, and you feel like you're going to explode, just remember, everybody needs a shade tree. Everybody needs a friend. Everybody needs a breeze in their face to cool them down. And everybody needs a well in their lives to draw from fresh water to cool them down. God bless you. My name is Jack Vint, and you've been watching Time Out.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song. I've delivered